All right, well, thank you everyone for coming out tonight. We know how busy everyone is, and we know you're taking time out of your schedules to be here with us, so we really do appreciate it. My name is Mark Nagy. I'm the Community Relations Officer for TDOT in Region 1, East Tennessee. We're here tonight at Heritage High School for an in-person design public meeting to gather additional input on the proposed Pellissippi Parkway extension project in Blount County, which would run from State Route 33, Old Knoxville Highway, to State Route 73, US 321, Lamar Alexander Parkway. The proposed project consists of developing a new controlled access 4-lane highway with a concrete median barrier wall and grade-separated interchanges. The purpose of this design public meeting is to allow property owners and the general public an opportunity to comment on the proposed design elements. Joining us tonight from the Tennessee Department of Transportation are TDOT Regional Director Steve Borden, Regional Director of Operations Amanda Snowden, and Regional Director of Project Development Dexter Justice. From TDOT Design are Christy Brown, Stacy Weaver, Eric Wilson, Randy Plummer, Jay Morgan, Henry Reed, Suzanne Thompson, Terry Ogle, Jacob Brashear, Aaron Hayes, Mark Parrish, Eric Kim, Scott Bowles, John Cleghorn, Nathan Bartlett, Aubin Canning, Stephanie Wallace, Kenny Curley, Alex Keelty, James Shelton, Jennifer Pollard, and David Jordan. From TDOT Right-of-Way are John Barrett, Sheena Foster, Corey Chirac, Seth Emerson, Joe Fabio, Kelly Ogle-Wolf, Josh Biddle, Blue Skimmyhorn, Laura Birch, Crystal Danker, Jimmy McSpadden, Jeff Mayernich, Ted Threlkeld, and Amber Warren. From TDOT Ecology, Mike Palmer. From TDOT Operations, Todd Sexton, Luke Newman, and Javier Reyes. From TDOT Traffic, Andy Padgett. From TDOT Utilities, Macario Reyes and Alex Christie. And from our design consultant CDM Smith are Jeff Mize, Cassie Holmes, Allison Boyd, and Michael Papiernick. Coming up shortly, we'll have a formal presentation. Will be followed up by a few minutes of a public question and answer session if anyone has any general design-related questions about the project. Most of this evening will be reserved for one-on-one conversations between TDOT representative and citizens. Specific questions regarding proposed impacts to specific properties are best answered on a one-on-one basis while reviewing the project displays. The public Q&A I mentioned earlier is one way to get your comments on the record. After the presentation, we'll have microphones in each middle aisle, and we'll ask you to come into the aisle to ask your questions. We'll also have a court reporter present. They're videotaping tonight's meeting after the presentation and after the Q&A. They'll be set up right down there in that corner, and we'll be videotaping your public comments if you choose that way to get your comments on the record and in the official project transcript. In addition, comment sheets are available to those who would prefer to do a written statement instead. You can hand them in to us tonight, or you can take them home and mail them back to us. Just make sure they are submitted within 21 days so that they are recorded in the project transcript. Also on the project webpage, starting tomorrow afternoon, there will be a link that you can use to make comments as well. Before we go any further, I'll ask if there are any members of the media here tonight. I know the Maryville Daily Times is in attendance. Are there any other members of the media here tonight? Yes, your organization, please. It's tough for me to see with the lights. Any other media here tonight? Yes. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, also ask if there are any public officials here tonight, if you can please stand and say your name and the office that you represent. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, well, with all that being said, let's begin tonight's formal presentation, which once again will be followed up by a Q&A session. So once again, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll begin the presentation in just a sec. Welcome to the public design meeting for the proposed State Route 162 Pellissippi Parkway extension project. At the request of the Blount County Commission, TDOT agreed to host an in-person design meeting in conjunction with the virtual design meeting that was held earlier this year. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to discuss the proposed design elements and to allow meeting attendees the opportunity to talk one-on-one with TDOT representatives. Before we review the proposed design elements, let's take a look at how a proposed project comes to life and moves through the development phase. First, a transportation need must be identified. Once a transportation need and appropriate funding are identified, a planning report and conceptual drawings can be prepared. After the planning document is complete, the next step is to prepare the NEPA, or environmental, document. For the proposed SR-162 Pellissippi Parkway Extension project, the highest level of environmental document, an EIS, was approved. FHWA issued a record of decision, or ROD, on August 31, 2017, announcing the agency's approval of the preferred alternative, including the western shift, identified in the final EIS as the official selected alternative. After the environmental document was approved and funding made available, preliminary engineering began. On large-scale projects such as the proposed SR-162 Pellissippi Parkway extension, a public design meeting is the next step. After the public design meeting, departmental staff will gather and review public comments. Once the comments have been addressed, plans will be finalized for NEPA reevaluation and right-of-way appraisal and acquisition. Once all necessary property is acquired, environmental permits obtained, and funding made available, the project can be let to contract and construction activities can begin. Before going over the proposed design, let's review how the proposed SR-162 Pellissippi Parkway project came to life. Prior to 1986, Pellissippi Parkway was a 4-lane divided, limited-access highway extending from Oak Ridge Highway, SR-162 in the Solway community, to I-40 I-75, thus connecting Oak Ridge and Anderson County to the cities of Farragut and Knoxville. Local officials of Blount County, Maryville, and Alcoa were eager to extend the parkway southeast to New Walland Highway, now State Route 73 US 321, and promoted their plan to state officials. The Tennessee Urgent Highway Needs Plan, enacted by the General Assembly in 1986, included the extension of Pellissippi Parkway, which was identified in the plan as I-140 from I-40 in western Knox County to State Route 73 US 321 in eastern Blount County, a distance of approximately 19.5 miles. Between 1987 and 2005, the sections of Pellissippi Parkway from I-40 to State Route 33 were completed. Construction of the proposed Pellissippi Parkway extension between State Route 33 and State Route 73 US 321 will complete the design of the original project and is the final section of SR-162 Pellissippi Parkway. Although it is not the primary focus of tonight's meeting, we do want to briefly go over the purpose and need. The purpose for the proposed SR-162 Pellissippi Parkway Extension project is to provide travel options to the existing radial roadway network, enhance regional transportation system linkage, enhance roadway safety on the county's roadway network, including the Maryville Core, and to achieve or avoid adversely affecting traffic operations on the existing transportation network. The transportation needs that were identified in the approved document are limited mobility options due to the county's primarily radial roadway network, poor local roadway network with substandard cross-sections in the eastern portion of the county, lack of a northwest-east connection east of Alcoa and Maryville, safety concerns on area roadways including the Maryville Core, and traffic congestion and poor levels of service on major arterial roadways and intersections in the project area. The proposed SR-162 Pellissippi Parkway Extension project will begin at State Route 33, Old Knoxville Highway, and end at State Route 73, US 321, Lamar Alexander Parkway. The proposed improvements include completing the existing interchange at State Route 33, Old Knoxville Highway, as well as constructing a new interchange at State Route 35, US 411, Sevierville Road. The proposed extension will terminate at the intersection of State Route 162 Pellissippi Parkway and State Route 73 US 321 Lamar Alexander Parkway, and is currently proposed to be a signalized intersection. During preliminary design, several options were evaluated for the intersection of State Route 162 and State Route 73. The proposed signalized intersection achieves an acceptable level of service while minimizing proposed impacts. As the project continues to move through the design process and traffic information is updated, the intersection will continue to be evaluated to ensure the proposed signal continues to function sufficiently. The proposed State Route 162 Pellissippi Parkway Extension project will be a controlled access facility, with access only available via the proposed interchanges. The typical section for State Route 162 is two 12-foot travel lanes in each direction, separated by a concrete median barrier. The inside shoulders will be 14 feet wide, while the outside shoulders will be 12 feet wide. A 10-foot greenway is proposed between Wildwood Road to State Route 35 US 411 Sevierville Road and along Sevierville Road to Davis Ford Road. Ultimately, this section of proposed greenway will tie into the City of Alcoa's and Blount County's greenway system. To minimize impacts to adjacent properties, retaining walls will be constructed in certain locations. Now let's take a look at the proposed improvements. The proposed State Route 162 Pellissippi Parkway Extension project begins at State Route 33, Old Knoxville Highway, and terminates at State Route 73 US 321, Lamar Alexander Parkway. The existing interchange at State Route 33, Old Knoxville Highway, will be completed, and the proposed State Route 162 extension will extend to the south, adjacent to Clayton Road, which runs through the Pellissippi Place Business Park. As we pass Pro Nova to your right, located in the Pellissippi Place Business Park, you will notice a new proposed bridge which will be constructed to allow access to the remainder of the business park. You can see some of the proposed retaining walls along the project, utilized to minimize impacts to adjacent properties. A new bridge will be constructed over Wildwood Road. To the right, you see the beginning of the proposed greenway. TDOT coordinated with local agencies, including the City of Alcoa and Blount County, on incorporation of the greenway within the project limits. A new bridge will be constructed over East Brown School Road. The greenway extends from Wildwood Road to State Route 35 Sevierville Road. A new interchange will be constructed at State Route 35 Sevierville Road. Signals will be installed at both sets of ramps. Due to projected traffic volumes, Sevierville Road will be widened to a 4-lane section with a center turn lane and will include curb and gutter and sidewalks throughout the limits of improvements along the roadway. The greenway will cross Sevierville Road at the signalized intersection and extend to the intersection of Sevierville Road and Davis Ford Road. A new bridge will be constructed on Davis Ford Road crossing State Route 162, Pellissippi Parkway. As we pass Kensington Place on the right, you can see the terminus of the State Route 162 Pellissippi Parkway Extension Project at State Route 73, US 321, Lamar Alexander Parkway. The proposed design features include a proposed traffic signal with additions of dual left and right turn lanes on State Route 162 Pellissippi Parkway, as well as dual left turn lanes and a proposed right turn lane on State Route 73, US 321, Lamar Alexander Parkway. The traffic volumes that you are seeing in this model represent future 2040 traffic volumes and operates at acceptable levels of service with minimal delay. This simulation models queue lanes that motorists can expect. It also shows that each of the queues will flush when given the green light. A signalized intersection was chosen to minimize impacts to property and will continue to be evaluated as the project progresses. So what's next in the process? This graphic highlights the overall project development process. We are currently at the design meeting phase. After the design meeting is held and comments have been addressed, TDOT will work to finalize design plans for the proposed State Route 162 Pellissippi Parkway Extension project. As the right-of-way appraisal and acquisition phase has already been budgeted in the department's 3-year work program and is currently in the Knoxville TPO's Transportation Improvement Program, the next stage is to begin purchasing the necessary right-of-way and easements to construct the project once the environmental reevaluation is complete and funding is made available. It is anticipated to take 24 to 30 months to complete the necessary acquisition. Once the necessary right-of-way is acquired and the necessary environmental permits are obtained, the project will be eligible to receive construction funding once budgeted in the department's 3-year work program. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting and for your interest in the proposed State Route 162 Pellissippi Parkway extension. For more information, please contact Mr. Dexter Justice or Mr. Stacy Weaver or visit the project website. Thank you. Okay, well, it's time now to begin our public question and answer session. Once again, we're going to have folks with microphones in the 2 middle aisles. So if you can, just raise your hand, and then they'll call on you, and then you can walk out to the aisle and give your comment. It is currently 5:50, so let's do this until about 6:20, 6:25. If you have any questions specifically about specific properties, you can also go in the back where all the displays are. We got TDOT folks there ready and willing to answer your questions as well. So we'll do this for about 25, 30 minutes, and let's get started. Oh, and also, if you can, please limit yourself to one question. Make sure we can get everybody some time. And also, please state your name and your address so that we can have that on the record. Go ahead, sir.
My name's Arthur Ryle. I live on Kerr Road in Blount County. And I'm concerned about the ecological concerns, not only to the neighbors, but to the wildlife in the area. The farmland, I think that's been discussed quite a bit for property access, but it's also probably for the rest of my life going to be under construction. So I'd like to hear what you say about the noise and the motor exhaust and all the rest of those ecological concerns and the wildlife.
Sure, thank you. My name's Dexter Justice. I'm the Director of Project Development here We have a team up here that will be answering and fielding questions. I also have Stacy Weaver, who is the project manager for the project, and Steve Borden, who is the regional director for East Tennessee. Certainly understand your concerns. A lot of those concerns were expressed during the NEPA phase of this project. The ecological stuff will be dealt with our resource agencies when we go through the process of applying for permits to make sure that the impacts are considered appropriately and the appropriate measures are in place to either mitigate the need, reduce the impact, those kinds of things. So we'll be working with resource agencies along the way on that. Air and noise were all studied as part of the NEPA process, and all that information will be available in our environmental document record decision that you can find on the project webpage.
Once again, if you can say your name and your address, please.
My name is Kate Connolly, and I live on Bridgewater Crossing. My general comment is one of dismay. There are a lot of people here that have given their time to come here and to interact with you, not one-on-one, but we already submitted hundreds, if not thousands, of questions and comments, virtual room and by mail, and we heard nothing. I personally called 3 times to Stacy Weaver's office and got no response and request for a meeting. And I'm wondering, how transparent is this process? You're saying that we're going to have comments addressed at some future point about other design changes? I just feel like we're given no real respect as taxpayers in this process.
I certainly understand your concern there, and we look to be as transparent as possible. As part of the online virtual meeting, we took those comments, realizing this was coming, this opportunity was coming. We wanted to get those comments as well so we could address them at the same time. The way design meeting comments work, we're here to field questions about the design, not necessarily NEPA type stuff. We've had that part of the process for the project. Record decision, again, is out there for review at any time. What we really want to hear is what you think about the project. We will address those concerns within the project design. If there are things that we can do to make changes, we will. If we can't, then obviously we will make that part of our records.
This is Renee. I live on Davis Ford Road. My question is, right now, I travel Pellissippi every day, and there are so many potholes, and the bridges and the entry ramps and the exit ramps are in such disrepair that if you can't keep that section up now, what makes you think you can do the rest of it for us? Because, I mean, the potholes are terrible, and where you've patched, they're like speed humps. So, I mean, I just don't see where the monies should be put back into what you've already done instead of extending anything more.
Dexter's taller than I am. Yeah, certainly we do that. And, you know, we are a maintenance-first state, and we do appreciate those comments. We actually have that section of Pellissippi slated in the upcoming year for resurfacing as part of our program. So we will be doing and addressing that. We certainly understand we've done several iterations with the bridge ends as well. We'll be addressing those as well as for the bump that you've talked about. That'll be in the future planning too. So we'll continue to do that. We are, like I said, we do have a resurfacing plan for that one coming up.
Are you holding that or me? Okay. Thank you for being here tonight. Y'all have a tough job, so thanks. My name's Jay Clark. I'm president of Citizens Against Pellissippi Parkway Extension. I would like to say that you asked for elected officials that were here. We had 4 county commissioners here earlier that had to leave early to go to Knox County. And for the voters in the room, I want you to know it's Steve Michaels, Jeff Joplin, Nick Bright, and Jackie Hill, all who, along with Commissioner Hammondtree here and some others in the room voted for this meeting to happen so we could do this, not one-on-one, so we could do this, and that's really important to point out. I have a quick question about the design process in general, and that is really the only people that really want this thing in the county is the Blount Partnership, and they are the biggest driving force for the Pellissippi Parkway extension, known to some of us as the Blackberry Mountain Expressway. What role did the partnership and/or Brian Daniels play in pushing for the virtual meeting during the pandemic? I look back at your calendar. I saw no design meetings before November 2019. There were only a handful of meetings that you had otherwise online that looked like they could possibly be done that way. I'm curious, out of the billions of dollars of backlog projects we have in Tennessee, why suddenly is the Pellissippi Parkway extension worthy enough to have a so-called inadequate virtual meeting? And I want to know who you talked to. Was it the elected officials that you talked to? Because the Blount Partnership knew about the virtual meeting as early as March 23rd. The landowners that are affected, that are going to lose their farms and lose their land and live next to this thing, didn't get any letters until April 6th or 7th. So that's a design meeting question, and I'd like that addressed, please. And I'm still waiting for a call back from Stacy Weaver as well.
Certainly, this project is on the list to move forward as many projects are. This project was slated for a design meeting in late 2019. That's what we were moving towards. And then it got to where it was going to be more like 2020, early 2020. Obviously, that's when the pandemic started up. We did not have any clearance to do any kind of virtual meeting at that time. The industry as a whole was reeling, trying to figure out how we keep projects moving forward. I mean, projects moving forward is part of the game. Once you get to one step, it's expected that you keep them moving. So design public meeting was the next step. I wouldn't say we had pressure to move forward, but keeping in communication with our local stakeholders, whether it be the NPO, TPOs, counties, Blount Partnership in this case, other folks, we stay in contact with them about other projects, so they're continually asking about what's going on in general with all projects. But I wouldn't say we had any pressure to do one virtually from them. We had several projects that we went forward with virtual meetings across the state. This happened to be the design public meeting in Region 1 that we went forward with once FHWA made that an available tool for us. So as soon as that became available, we started working towards that type of meeting. At that time, we were at the height of the pandemic as far as we knew it. Ended up being that it started coming down there in April and things got less, and that's when the conversation started about having one in person. That's why we're here today.
Yeah, my name is Rob Kennedy. Thank you guys for having us here. I live in Walland off of Friendship Way. So to give you perspective, I drive from Walland to Oak Ridge every day. It takes me about 20 minutes of back roads to get to the beginning of Pellissippi. That first 20 minutes is the only part of the drive that is enjoyable because it sees our beautiful East Tennessee scenery. The rest of Pellissippi, like others have said, is in pretty rough condition, and so are many of the other back roads in the area. How would the design of this help in any way with the disrepair and the state of our other roads? I feel like we need to put that money more towards our current roads that we need to support as opposed to this extension. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. I'm assuming most of the roads that you're talking about are local roads in the sense of you're going to move from this side of town to the other. Most of the state roads are radial and go from the center out to other towns like Sevierville and Knoxville. So I'm assuming you're talking about local roads. Local roads are maintained by local governments. In this case, we're talking about state and federal dollars, which go to addressing congestion or improving mobility or those kinds of things. So this is a pile of money that is for this type of work. So in short, local local maintenance of local roads is a local issue.
My name is Edwin Best. I reside at 105 Hill Run Drive, Maryville. How does this design address the very real and pressing transportation needs due to the explosion of growth in the western part of the county, where there will be 2 massive Amazon warehouses with hundreds of tractor trailers, and where, according to promotions for the new Laurel Branch Industrial Park, there are 230 apartment units approved and under construction, 350 new houses approved under construction on Morganton Road, and 100 more homes in the approval stage, and 29,051 average daily traffic counts on US 321. Thank you.
Certainly, growth in communities drives more projects. I would say this project was not brought to us to address those needs. It was to address the needs outlined in the environmental document. With growth brings new opportunities, new needs. As those are identified, that brings up new opportunities for new projects.
Gordon Collins. I live at 3230 Sevierville Road, about less than half a mile where the proposed parkway crosses. First of all, I'd like to commend TDOT for resurfacing 411 North. You did a fantastic job. But my question is, why spend $100 million plus on a road that's not needed and completely ignore 411 that needs widening? There's no curbs. It's very dangerous.
Yeah, so that's another need that would be addressed with a different pot of money. This project was brought on its own merits and evaluated on its own merits. So this is the project that has been selected to move forward.
James Hammondtree, 864 East Hunt Road in Alcoa. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the video insinuate that Interstate 140 went all the way to State Route 73 and US Route 321?
So yes, it says that is a possibility. That would be a discussion with FHWA as we move forward. Currently, I-140 stops at the Pellissippi Parkway Alcoa interchange. So State Route 162 is being extended. After that is in place, it would be reevaluated to see if the nomenclature of the interstate would move forward all the way out to State Route 73.
Well, unless I'm driving with my eyes closed, which I'm not.
Thank you.
Shortly after traveling under 129, there's a sign that says Interstate I-140 ends here. Why?
So it ends, you're saying Alcoa Highway?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's also US 129.
Yes, yeah, and State Route 115. Yeah, so the interstate goes from certain interchanges based on volume and agreements between the Federal Highway Administration and the department to identify what is identified as a state route and what's identified as an interstate. This route is being built to interstate standards, so it would be capable of being identified as an interstate. We have this very same thing that has happened in the past up in good instances in Sullivan County. For years, we had I-81, and it's still, or I-181, it's turned into I-26, but it comes to a terminus close to the Virginia line, and from one exit up, it is labeled as a state route, so this is a very common feature within our inventory.
What about the environmental impact statement? Who's going to conduct that?
We already have an environmental impact statement, a final environmental impact statement that has a record decision from the FHWA, so that's already been conducted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ann Tedford, and I live on Wilson Avenue in Maryville. And I'm going to read to make sure that I get this correct. I'm wondering why you're still relying on traffic studies that are 8 and 10 years old when there are many major improvements that have been made in the past decade to enable better traffic flow in the study area. For example, the new traffic management system that connects signals between Maryville and Alcoa changes traffic flow in and between the two cities and reduces delays at traffic lights. Not to mention the improvements to Alcoa Highway and the many other roads and intersections in the county. Does TDOT have plans to reevaluate and update their traffic studies with this new information?
Yeah. Certainly, you've listed some good improvements to the community and the traveling public with the traffic management system in the city of Alcoa and Maryville and our improvements on Alcoa Highway. Those improvements bring future growth. We use a traffic demand model that's created by Knoxville Metropolitan Planning Organization in their area. And as these new traffic calming or traffic signal management and new roads come online, and as it changes traffic patterns, we will certainly monitor that and reevaluate that going forward.
Got it. Yes, sir. Tony Parnell, 224 Webb Road, Townsend. Given you guys' experience, we're going to assume this project's going forward. So given eminent domain and everything you've got to go through, how do you see the timeline on this project over the next couple of 3 years?
Yes, certainly. That's a good question. So today we're at the public design meeting. Once we get finished with this meeting, we address the comments that we receive in our plans. Then we move. The next phase for us is a right-of-way field review, which is where we see how the project impacts properties. And from there, we have to complete a environmental reevaluation, which is a process where our environmental folks take our right-of-way plans and make sure that we are still staying within the terms of the record of decision and the final EIS, and to reevaluate how that stands, if there's any new information as it relates to archaeology or to species or those kinds of things. So that usually can take in the realm of 6 months or so. So I would anticipate right-of-way funds being made available for the project to start appraising and acquiring properties sometime probably late spring, early summer. From there, it's about a 24 to 30 month process to purchase right-of-way. This project would be available for construction funding probably, I would say, after that 30 months. So do the math, it'd probably be in the 2025 range for the earliest for construction to be made available.
I'm Jeannie Ezell. I live at 1116 Hitch Road. And my question is about the design of that interchange at Sevierville Road. As mentioned before, there's a lot of traffic, and obviously we can expect there probably to be more instead of going down some of those other side roads. And it looks like what's proposed to have the 5 lanes on each side of that seems like they seem rather short, that it's going to just bottleneck on both sides. So I was wondering how it was determined how long that expansion at that interchange should be.
Yeah, certainly. So from each side of the interchange, we use engineering tools that we have available to us, whether horizontal, vertical, alignment, those kinds of things, sight distance, all those type, lane tapers, all those kinds of things to determine the length that we have. I think we have about a mile worth of improvement of 5-lane along that road. So that'll help the new road, State Route 162, function appropriately, the interchange to function appropriately. But it also gives you takeoff points to where if future improvements are needed along State Route 35, say on into town or back towards Sevierville, that gives you a good starting point for a future project.
Hi, Jameson Albright, 2930 Davis Ford Road. Really just here to say my piece because as your presentation already explained, this has already been approved and there's nothing any of us can do to stop this. I'm just going to say my piece, don't really have any questions. One thing I did want to address is, so going over traffic is basically the one thing that I've seen is the reason why the parkway needed to be, the project needed to go forward. But if we address traffic hours nationally are considered to be between 3 and 6 p.m. If we look at these numbers, there are only 831 incidents annually in Blount County. Now this includes fatalities, injuries, and property damage incidents. The vast majority of these incidents are property damage and not injuries or fatalities. If you'll excuse me for not having the time to go through every incident over the course of the decade, I can confidently state that the majority of these numbers are not within traffic hours. Most fatalities appear to be during night hours and not near the extension of the Pellissippi Parkway extension. Now, the numbers claim that 56 properties, 11 single families, 200 acres of land, and a number of farmland properties will be impacted. The main issue that I have with TDOT is how they list farmland as undeveloped, and how impacted only includes physically impacted residents. That's laughable. If we go back to traffic for a second, I can give you an example of how absurd the definition of impacted really is. If there was an accident and 3 vehicles were physically involved in that accident, TDOT would state that there was only 3 physicals impacted. So let me explain. TDOT would remove all vehicles that were stuck in traffic and were unable to move and were late, and they waited for emergency vehicles to clear up the accident. All parties that were late for work, late for school, late for appointments, etc., are not included because they were not physically involved in the accident. So once again, this is based off a definition explained earlier through TDOT. So in this case, TDOT's contradicts itself and cannot argue their number one case of traffic being a reasonable argument.
Thank you for your comment.
Yes, my name is Eric Orta. I live in Sweetgrass Plantation. Like most people here, they're concerned about budget funding, our tax dollars being used properly. Going back to the road, going from Oak Ridge back over this way on Pellissippi, it's like you're dodging, anyone that's played Mario Kart, I mean, you're constantly dodging potholes and you name it. The analogy I have for most people, because if you're visual, it's like you have a home, roof is leaking, windows are busted, your foundation is destroyed. You come across $100,000 and you actually build a beautiful master bedroom, you add square footage, but the rest of the home is dilapidated. It doesn't make sense to me. And I know the Chamber of Commerce might not be here and the Blount Partnership, shame on them. They're supposed to be representing Blount County businesses, and they're taking away the traffic that flows through downtown Maryville and all these businesses and taking it to another county. So if you're representing Blount County Chamber of Commerce, shame on you, because I don't think you really are.
Hello, thank you for being here tonight. My name is Pam Petko-Seuss. I live on Johnson Road here in Maryville. It's great to be able to ask questions, and we appreciate you encouraging us to ask questions, but even better to receive the answers. I'm still waiting since May to get any answers from the comments I sent in, as well as waiting to see even an acknowledgement that I sent them in. I'm very concerned that road ecology has not been satisfactorily addressed in this proposed project. And for those of you who may not fully understand all that encompasses, road ecologists investigate the complex interaction between roads and the natural environment, how roads act as barriers inhibiting the movement of plants, animals, water, soils, how traffic runoff contaminates surface and underground water, and how particulate emissions and noise pollution affect people and habitats. My main concern is that there is a lack of wildlife crossings that are either above or below the highway that is planned. It is instrumental to have those crossings for our bear and deer populations. If you've ever watched a mother bear try to get a baby over a 4-foot concrete barrier, it's horrible. And I can guarantee that most of the people that come as tourists to Blount County come to see bear and deer, and that's very important because we love those animals here. I would also like to make sure that wildlife corridors are included along this proposed road. The current greenway is it's a nice idea, but it is different from a wildlife corridor that allows wildlife to move to the official areas where crossings have been established. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments, especially on the wildlife crossing. So we actually have done that on numerous occasions. On I-26, along I-40, we have wildlife crossings. Obviously, this is an area that has a lot of wildlife. And, that's a great comment for the design to be put into the record for consideration. Right now, we've got 2 wildlife crossings that we have applied for some federal money to do on I-40 as well. So it's one of the things that's on our mind, on our corridors and our projects, and as we develop them, and retrofitting them as well. So that's a great comment. That's one of the things that for tonight is when you look at the design of a project, those are good opportunities for us all as a community to make the project, the best that we can.
In the last 20 years, the people have, Elon, and I live on Old Walland Highway in Walland. In the last 20 years, the people have spoken against the PPE time and time again. Just a few examples are 84 letters to the editor in the Daily Times expressing opposition. Of the 16 letters expressing favor, 11 were written by 2 people. In rounds 1, 2, and 3 of the NOx TPO's 2045 mobility plan, maintenance of roads and bridges received the highest public support, while participants expressed building new roads as the least favored idea. Furthermore, the PPE itself received a negative score. In one round, 52 people opposed the road and only 1 person supported it. So my question is, like so many others here, is why, with overwhelming opposition time and time again, does TDOT continue to push this highway onto the citizens of Blount County? And what evidence can you give us that our comments are taken seriously? Because Mr. Steve Borden has been all over the media saying that TDOT values public input, but I can't tell from the voices in this room and from the history that that is correct.
Thank you for that comment. So again, tonight is about a design public meeting. We want to hear your design comments. That being said, the NEPA phase of this project took comment from the public. We went through the NEPA process as prescribed by FHWA. We have had nothing but local official support for this project from the inception. It was brought to the department from Blount County officials. So, the politicians and the folks and the officials of Blount County are here to represent you. Those people have brought the project to us, and we have had nothing but local support in that sense to today.
He said he was coming.
You'll be next.
Yeah.
My name is Angie Mullins. I live at 2937 Sevierville Road. I am right on the corner of this project of Sevierville Road and Davis Ford Road. My family are here tonight to view this. I want to say, first of all, thank you for coming out this evening and giving us this opportunity. However, after having the opportunity to meet with Corey from TDOT out here in the lobby, he was so gracious to show me the map and what was projected. I understand that this is a design meeting, so I'm going to ask you a design question. In that design, it clearly shows that you intend to take a decent portion of my front yard, of which is only about 25 yards anyways to Sevierville Road. We are already impacted highly by the traffic and the noise of that road. My daughter, who sits down here and is probably one of the few children that I see in this room, is 15. She plans to turn 16 in December. How do you intend to make sure that she's able to pull out of my yard, out of my house? How do you intend to tell me you're not building a sound barrier, and yet we are 20 yards from the road? She's expected to sleep at night and get up and go to school in the morning. That's why she's here tonight, and that's why I want to voice my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Certainly, air and noise is part of the evaluation during the NEPA phase. We did study air and noise, and we did confirm that a noise barrier is needed for the Kensington trailer park. Okay, so that's one location that we are required to go out and get their input, and if they desire to have one, that's the one place that has qualified for it at this time. As far as the driveway concerns, the right-of-way process is pretty clear. We'll come out and evaluate what the impacts are to your property. I don't know your specific issues. Be happy to sit down and look at it with you. I'm aware of that. I'm just telling the group as a whole where the noise study did get us.
Hi, my name is Ingrid Hahn. I live miles from the right-of-way in Louisville. My first question is, and I guess I'll just give it to you. I have a feeling you're about to try to cut this meeting off. And I think there are quite a number of people who still have questions, am I right? This is our opportunity to ask questions, which was not really answered during the virtual meeting. Anyone who wants to look more closely at the maps, there are 40 to 50, I'm told, staff out there, and they may go and look at maps, but some of us are here to ask questions. And I'm another one of those people that called Mr. Stacy's office and never got a call back. And I would like my questions answered, and I would like to hear the questions of everyone else here, and I think you work for us. Also, I think that if you do not have pressing, urgent needs that you can justify, taking people's farms, lands, and homes with eminent domain is criminal.
Okay. I'm Lynn Hops. I live on Miser Station in Louisville. In the process of coming up with the design that you've presented tonight, and given the growth that will follow if this gets built, have you considered the financial cost to the taxpayers of Blount County, such as the expansion of existing or the building of new schools, the increased demand to provide safety services like police, fire, ambulance, and the badly needed safety improvements of our existing roads, costs that will not be covered by property and sales taxes?
Yeah, so to answer that question, I would say the improvements that we are planning will probably bring those things. You're correct. It is the responsibility of your community to help bring those to the people of Blount County. We have been requested to pursue this project by local officials, and that's the direction we're going.
My turn. Hi, I'm Marion Fitzgerald. I live on Havenwood Drive in the 13 curves off 411 Highway. Thank you for having us here and letting us ask questions. I appreciate it very much. It is laudable that TDOT prioritizes transportation efficiency and highway safety. I think you do. You keep talking about it, so I guess you do. However, this design for the PPE features an interchange with Sevierville Road that will add traffic to a narrow two-lane U.S. highway without any shoulders, which is already carrying more traffic than it can handle. I have a two-part question about this. Part one, how do you propose to alleviate congestion and improve safety on 411 when this extension opens? Part two, have you considered eliminating the interchange at the extension and the parkway altogether with Sevierville Road? This design change would keep us a lot safer on our existing Sevierville Road, and you'd save enough money to perhaps build a proper interchange at the terminus at 321.
Sure. So certainly, as part of the development process, we have a lot of projects that are ongoing, right? This is one of them. As we go along, being a pay-as-you-go state, we'll continue to do evaluations of corridors at length there. Right now, the volumes on Sevierville Road are pretty high, and right now it's being flushed out throughout smaller road networks. This will allow people to go directly to a better facility. As we continue the process of developing in Blount County, new projects will arise. Projects like that will be brought forward that will be needs to be considered for improvements. It's all a partnership. We work a lot with our local officials, our communities to try to craft projects that meet those needs. We are involved in some of the local road networks at times through our state aid program, as well as developing projects along those corridors. So we'll continue to, every project will have a continuation of additional needs. As long as there's growth. Blount County has grown an extremely large amount. In the area that we're in now, there's a lot of subdivisions that are under development. There are also more that are planned for development. When you look at the planning documents, we know that growth's coming. Our thing is to try to build a safe and reliable transportation system to meet those needs. And we'll continue to evaluate those other roads as we go through the process. So this doesn't mean that the development or the needs stop at this project. While this one's being developed, we'll be looking at other networks as we go.
My name is... I'm sorry. Were you ahead of me? No. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
My name is Susan Keller. I live at 1565 East Brown School Road in Maryville. My husband, our son, and I are full-time farmers. And you're taking about 200 acres, I understand. Most of this is in some type of agriculture production. It's not major things, but it is. When you take this land, it's lost forever. And the land that you're taking of ours ruins a 60-something acre farm. What are you going to eat? I don't know whether you folks don't realize it or not, but there's not a ferry that flies through the supermarkets every night and stocks the shelves. We farmers are good, but we have equipment, we have seed, we have fertilizer. But if we don't have land, we cannot in any way produce a crop to feed this country. And these roads that you give us to operate and to move our equipment on, I don't read lips, but I do understand hand signs that we get when we're moving big pieces of farm equipment. So please think about this and what you're destroying, because once it's gone forever.
Hi, my name's Kent Minot. I live at 311 West Glenwood Avenue in Knoxville. I'm the political chair of the Sierra Club's Harvey Broom Group. And I had a question to ask you about how do you justify $100 million on this project when the TDOT's own projections show a coming shortfall of funds. But as I listen to the comments in the room, I'm forced to ask what I think is a larger question, which is could it be possible in your deliberations not to say that this is a project slated to move forward, but to consider the repeated demands of the public that you're addressing, that one possibility is don't do it. One possibility is let it be and let the people enjoy the economic assets that they have now rather than threatening them with an unneeded freeway. Could you answer the question about your process of deliberation? Thank you.
Certainly, we have a large number of projects on our slate to deliver for the citizens of the state. We are a pay-as-you-go state. We have zero debt on our infrastructure. As such, we have limited amount of funds on an annual basis to give towards these types of projects. We don't, while we work in concert with our local communities, we are not the sole selector of which projects we work on. Projects are voted on by the MPOs and TPOs, which in their area, what's a priority to them. This project continues to rank rather high in the Knoxville MPO, TPO area as a project of need. It's been identified by local officials as a project of need for the community, and those folks continue to vote it high and as a possible project to move forward. So the department takes those rankings into consideration, along with a healthy spread of money around the state to address the needs that have been identified by the communities at large.
Good evening, and thank you for taking questions, and I appreciate that you will stay and continue to take questions. I've heard now a few times that Tennessee is a pay-as-you-go state, and that's how I operate as well. I heard on Monday on WOKI Steve Borden with the Tennessee Transportation Department mentioning that if approved, when approved, TDOT then plans to go forward with, just go right ahead with acquiring land, either by purchasing it or through eminent domain, taking people's land. But the money is not in the budget for the project. So TDOT is going to start spending and not really paying as you go, start spending to acquire the land when there is nothing in the budget, nor has, thank you, sorry, there is no budget, state level budget for that. So how is it that you justify using my taxpayer money, basically gambling with it, because we don't know if the construction will ever happen. Gambling is illegal in Tennessee, I think, other than the lottery for college. But the cart is so far ahead of the horse here, we can't even see the horse. And so how could this possibly be a good use of my taxpayer money when, as Mr. Borden said, the final decisions about budgeting or the funding could be 2 years down the road? There's a lot of uncertainty here. In a couple years, there's going to be a gubernatorial race. The House will have turned over a couple of times. So how is gambling here now soon with my money, with all taxpayers' money, how is that a benefit to me or to anybody in Blount County?
Okay. So a couple of things. The way we do projects in the state of Tennessee, like we said, we're a pay-as-you-go state. There's only like 5 left in the nation. We're one of those to be, remain physically sound. We don't borrow money on our infrastructure or projects. So we don't do that so that our kids have to pay for that. This particular project is funded through the design phase currently. That money's already there, and it's also budgeted for the right-of-way phase. When we do projects, we don't budget the whole amount all at once. Obviously, there's inflation involved there, so if it takes 8 years or 7 years or 6 years to develop a project and get it to construction, if you're putting $100,000 in a bank account and drawing out of it very slowly, you're losing that money. So what we try to do is get that money to work as quickly as possible to maximize the use of the dollars. Right now, this project in the design phase is already funded in a previous 3-year plan, and it is currently funded for right-of-way in this year's 3-year plan. So it has been budgeted for those 2 phases. Once that work is complete, then it will go under consideration for funding at the next phase, which is construction. When you look at the cost of a project, about 10% of it is the NEPA design phase. About 15% or so usually is around where we're at for right-of-way. And then the large lift, obviously, is construction, which is around 75%. Our goal as we walk through projects, as we can and we have money and funding is available, then we will continue that process up until it's into construction and completed.
My name's Marilla Cable, and I live on 321 between the terminus of what would be 162 and Limbs Corner, where Ecology Pike ends. We'll used to cross the highway. My question to you all is, are you planning on putting on traffic lights up near the Ecology intersection in Kensington Trailer Park to slow the traffic? Because right now, I've lived on 321 all my life and seen 9 people killed from Hubbard School Road to Ecology Pike. And and everybody's talking about the increased traffic. You live on 321, there's more than 29,000 cars pass by our house, trust me. But are y'all planning on putting traffic lights on 321 once this highway ends to help with the traffic flow on 321 going toward Heritage and toward Maryville?
Heard my name mentioned many, many times already. I'm Stacy Weaver. Everybody's saying, Dexter and Steve's been fielding most of the questions. We'll evaluate, those locations for future improvements, look at the safety around those intersections. Currently, that's not included in the project. The only traffic signal on 321 is at the terminus of State Route 162 Pellissippi Parkway. To address Ms. Hahn's questions about the questions that we've received at TDOT and returning answers, if I haven't returned phone calls to individual property owners or anybody that has reached out to me, feel free to reach out to me. Again, we have had a lot of people contact our offices and trying to get that up to date. We are currently still addressing comments that we've received from the virtual public meeting. Just by looking at those comments, and we are addressing those right now. We'll continue to address the comments that we've received from this meeting, and we will compile all those comments together once all those are addressed. So please, if you still want to talk to me in person, I'm here tonight. Feel free to call my offices. Like I said, if we haven't gotten in contact with you, I apologize about that.
Obviously, we have a lot of folks who still want to ask questions, so what we're going to do is we're going to extend the public question and answer session until the end of the meeting. So we'll extend that until 7 o'clock, and once that meeting is done, we're still going to stick around and answer any questions you have. But we'll do the public question and answer session. We've got another 20 minutes till 7, so we'll do that until 7 o'clock. All right.
Hi. First, I want to thank this gentleman for holding the microphone. It makes it a lot easier. My name's Bob Haney, and I live on Sweetbriar Drive in Maryville. I grew up on New York's Long Island, and I experienced the short and the long-term negative impact on the quality of life, the environment, and the local economy, including downtown shopping centers. Some of you might remember Long Island duck and Long Island potatoes, which at one time were more famous than Idaho potatoes. But what happened to them, the negative impact was from the continuing extension of the Long Island Expressway, commonly referred to as the Distress Way, and the resulting connector roads that resulted from that expansion. So my question is, what elements of your design will prevent the short and the long-term displacement and destruction that we experienced on Long Island here in Blount County? And in your research, did you look at any of those models and build off of them? Thank you.
Could you repeat that one more time?
The same displacement and destruction that we experienced on Long Island, because it will happen here in Blount County. Thank you.
Okay. I guess I can speak to it for. So as far as the Long Island, we didn't look at that. I'm not real familiar with it as far as that goes. I mean, we do have a project development process that we follow, that we try to address the needs through the NEPA document. Obviously, at the beginning of the project, it looks at a lot of those aspects of a project. Purpose and need, effects, mitigating those effects. As we talked about before, I know someone talked about the tightness of the interchange. Yeah, it is. We do know that it will work with the volumes that we're asking it to do and that we project. At the same time, we're trying to minimize impacts to both property owners and also the environment as well as we're developing the process.
My name is Stephanie Burr, and I live on Chippewa Road, and that's near Sevierville Road and the Coulter Grove area. I don't really have a specific design comment, but we keep hearing that elected officials support this project. Seems like that was in 1986 and earlier. We have a lot of elected officials that no longer support this project. But specifically, I would like to know, our county mayor has said that our growth as it is unsustainable. We all know that this project would exponentially complicate that. Who are the local officials that TDOT confers with when doing these kinds of projects? Names. I want names, please.
Yeah, we can't give names. I mean, you know who your local officials are. You know their names then. They from the inception of the project to today, we've had nothing but local official support for the project. All written communication that we've had from these offices have been in support of these projects.
Okay. Chris Jenkins, 4094 Davis Ford Road. I for one, support the project. I'm a lifelong Blount Countyan. I've lived here my entire life. I do have a couple of questions, and thank you all for hosting us. One question is, there appears to be the interchange there at Old Knoxville Highway and the interchange at Sevierville Road, but yet it's a at-grade signalized intersection at 321. In terms of efficiency and moving traffic, I wish you would consider looking at the possibility of an interchange at 321. And also, I do travel back and forth to Knoxville every day on these local roads that have very limited shoulders. So if by chance you get a wheel off the edge of the road, you're in trouble. So I, for one, like the idea of being able to drive on a safer, more efficient highway system to provide access to and from my employment. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Hi, I'm Dave Griffin. I live in Walden.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
We appreciate that comment. And just as we mentioned in the public meeting, actual presentation, we will continue to evaluate that interchange as we move forward. You know, the signal as we have it designed, really, it does function. It functions for the design year that we have projected. And we went with the decision with the signal just to try to minimize those impacts to properties as much as we could. But that's not to say that we won't continue evaluating
the traffic as, as we move forward with the project, and we'll continue evaluating that interchange. Thank you.
I'm David Griffin. I live in Wallen, Tennessee, and in TDOT studies related to the extension, the only real positive thing TDOT found for justifying the extension was a time savings of 8 minutes for those traveling to the Smokies or going in the opposite direction headed to Knoxville. Given that was the only positive finding, what was your rationale for adding the stoplights at 411 and 321, and just this addition of stoplights not contradict its findings? And what's the estimated time savings with the stoplights added?
Yeah. The addition of the signal at the end of the project, as I stated before, was really to try to minimize impacts to property. There's the church at the end of the project that was being impacted. Several other properties around there that would have been impacted with the interchange design. The addition of this signal really poses a very minimal impact to delay on the project, as you've seen in the models that we presented. The delay really flushes every time the signal changes, so there's a minimal delay in signal with the signal in place.
Hi, my name is Nina Gregg. I live on Sevierville Road, 4 miles from where this proposed excessive, overbuilt, expensive, and poorly imagined project is designed to go. So you know what I think. I do have a question about TDOT's role. Bear with me. This design is a concept that's more than 50 years old. It is a 20th century approach based on an assumption that more roads are the solution to congestion and that high-speed roads are necessary for economic growth. Well, we know, thanks to TDOT's own studies, that the extension will not help congestion. That's your studies, not my opinion. There is an acknowledged serious gap between our infrastructure spending needs in our community and across Tennessee and the U.S. and the resources we anticipate having to pay for those needs. We know the state of Tennessee has an enormous backlog for transportation and road projects. Last time I checked, this is September 2021, not 1975 when this project was proposed, not 1986 when the first part of it was funded. It's time to plan thoughtfully and responsibly for the future by developing a vision of where and how we want our community to grow that includes how we'll pay for our needs in the future, a future that's already very different from the 20th century. And what many of us are asking for is visionary leadership to ensure a sustainable future way of life for future generations, not continuing the habits of the past. So I want to sure I understand correctly what we're talking about here, so please bear with me. The design does not aid congestion. The state of Tennessee does not have enough money to maintain our current roads and bridges. The extension will cost $135 million or more. Funding for construction isn't guaranteed, yet you're ready to condemn and take land by eminent domain. We already have 4-lane access to Townsend from Knoxville and Lenoir City. Great Smoky Mountains National Park is already the most visited national park in the US, so people don't have any trouble finding it. And the extension will bypass existing businesses and will take untold acreage from Pellissippi Place Business Park, which was supposed to be revenue generating. Approval of residential developments around the county is piecemeal, rather than part of a comprehensive land use and infrastructure plan. We don't have a long-term plan for how to pay for public services to thousands of new residents, and we don't have a shared vision of where and how we want our community to grow and what we want it to become in the 21st century. So here's my question. How can you help us imagine and prepare for a sustainable way of life for future generations instead of persisting in this outdated and short-sighted 20th century idea?
Certainly, we walk in concert with our local communities in that sense. This goes back in history, been brought to us a long time ago, but we continue to hear from the MPO, TPO, and local officials that they want this project. My role is to bring forward the projects as they are defined. The point of this is to get your input on the design, the actual design, yes. Yeah, get the microphone so I can hear you, yes.
Saying that the State Department of Transportation is incapable of proposing a visionary way forward and is stuck in the 20th century if that's what local leadership asks for?
What local leaders have asked for was the extension of the Pellissippi Parkway. So, yes. We have a role in studying the projects that have been proposed and whether they meet the need that was proposed. Thank you for your comment.
I'm just going to let them go for a second.
Again, the record decision is on file. We have a path forward for the project. If the desire is to stop it, the people that we have talked about are why we are building this project, right?
Certainly. So obviously, there's a lot of passion on both sides of this. You know, we get the comments in. There are an equal number of people that are as passionate about wanting this project. And as far as the comments, there's a lot. The purpose of the project, like we talked about, is that you go through a process. Part of that process is the environmental document that determines whether the project's viable and it should move forward. And that process was done in 2017. The record of decision was issued. At that point, we've moved on to the next phase. We work in concert with our local partners and our communities to deliver projects that they need or they desire or want. And that's the reason we're here today. And as we've talked about throughout the process and prior to this meeting and throughout the virtual meeting, the purpose of this project, this meeting tonight and the previous one is to collect information, and we've got a lot of good comments from folks on the design of the project as it moves forward. And that's where we're at right now. And that's really the forum that we're working in. I know that there's a lot of other questions out there. We'll be glad to take those later. I'll stay here as long as we need to with any of you. But in the interest of what the purpose of the particular meeting is tonight is to get information and gather things about the design of the project as it moves forward.
My name
Let's go. Ma'am, you're next.
My name is Kat Griffith Benson, and I live on Old Niles Ferry. I just want to remind everyone before I get started that Blount Partnership is not an elected official, and neither is Brian Daniels, so he should not be influencing any of this. So the final environmental impact statement was completed in 2015. As you just stated, the record of decision in 2017. Since the release of those documents, at least 2 species have been discovered in the Little River. We have both the slab-side pearly mussel and also the sickle darter. Basically, my question is, since you did this environmental study in 2015, what is your way to deal with these 2 new species that have been discovered? Are you planning to proceed with the project, and if so, how? And if not, why?
We appreciate that comment. And just recently, TDOT completed an environmental boundaries report identifying some of those species. We just recently got that back. Within that environmental report, there was, I believe, 2 species identified, just kind of as you mentioned. And with our coordination with Fish and Wildlife, neither one of those species are going to be
will be impacted by the project in any manner that would, cause an issue. So that has been looked at. It will continue to be looked at, as we move forward with the project. That's just part of our environmental process and what we do. But we have completed that report, and we've identified those locations, and we don't anticipate any impacts to those species.
Okay, we have time for one more question on each side. We'll start to the left of the room. One more question on each side.
The people that will be losing property for this project, the ones that will be losing a portion of the property and still have property remaining, will they be compensated for the diminished value of their remaining property? And also, will the people that own property adjacent to the project, within sight and within earshot of it, will they be compensated for diminished value for their property?
I'm gonna bring John Barrett up. He's one of our right-of-way guys.
Thank you for your question. As Steve said, I'm John Barrett with our project development technical team. So if I understood correctly, your first question was for properties that are impacted by the project that may have what we refer to as, if I understood you correctly, a remaining property. So once we enter that right-of-way process, we contract with independent licensed fee appraisers who come out. They do their assessment of the property. They take a look at any land, any what we call improvements, buildings, things like that necessary that would fall within our proposed right-of-way. In addition to that, they would take a look at what we refer to as damages to the remainder. In other words, use of the remaining property. Perhaps the shape of the existing property wasn't exactly what it was, and the use is different than what it was before we started. So that appraiser would assign damages to the remaining property as part of their assessment. You had a second question. What was that?
What I'm talking about, though, is, all right, so the diminished value of their remaining property due to having a highway run by it. Obviously, they're going to get compensated for the land you use. If they've got a remaining 20 acres, that 20 acres would be worth a lot more money without a highway running right by the side of it, as well as the other people who have property adjacent to it, whose their values are going to go down, even though they might not be directly impacted by the right-of-way. Their property value will go down due to the fact of the highway going by their property.
So properties that aren't, right, so your first question was, again, when we go back to the properties that have what we refer to as a remainder, properties that are impacted from a right-of-way standpoint, where the TDOT's acquiring what we call fee acquisition or easements, the independent licensed fee appraiser would take a look at what's left. Just to give you an example, just to explain myself better, if you have an acre property, TDOT's proposed acquisition takes a half an acre of that property. That remaining half would be considered as damages to the remainder, and so that would be part of the independent licensed fee appraiser's assessment in their appraisal. You also mentioned properties that aren't adjacent to the project that are impact. Correct. And so under our rules, our regs, and our standards, any property that is not directly impacted in terms of right-of-way acquisition would not undergo that required appraisal process. So, okay. Thank you. Correct.
All right, last question. Go ahead.
My name is Susan Rivenbark, and I live just off of Sevierville Road, just over Little River on Riverview Drive. This is a design question, two of them actually. The greenway that you're building down through there, I assume was put in as a compromise for something, but you're going to dump it out onto roads with no shoulders that lead, and the greenway really doesn't lead to anything. And the other question is you've designed these things, and this goes back to the question about wildlife traffic, and with all these gigantic retaining walls that you're doing, you're going through valleys, you're filling those up. The increased rainfall and flooding that we've had in Blount County, none of that seems to me to be updated since your environmental studies. Will there be a brand new environmental studies, and are we guaranteed the wildlife traffic right-of-ways?
The greenway. Okay, you had two questions. I think the first question was the greenway, right? Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. The greenway was actually something that was brought to us from the local folks that said, hey, they have Blount County is very blessed with a very robust greenway system. It's awesome. I utilize a lot of greenways. I enjoy using them. I run and exercise on them. You know, as part of the Alcoa Highway project, for instance, we are building greenways and connectivity all the way from Knox County to Blount County. Now, that being said, portions of it are being built on TDOT right-of-way, and we're assuming that responsibility. As a partnership, Knox County and Blount County are picking up other portions for connectivity. That's the same model that we're using along the Pellissippi corridor. So, yes, you see a portion that's very short that we're doing as part of the project, but there are also plans outside of that by the local government to connect those greenways further into some other areas. You know, every sidewalk starts with the first piece, right? Every greenway starts with the first piece. You know, we're very fortunate as the department that we do a lot of multimodal, multi-use paths across the state. I've got the opportunity to cut ribbons on about 20 of them in communities. And so when we have the ability, we're a multimodal agency. Look, you know, a lot of times we think of cars and trucks, which is a big portion of what is out there, but we also look at mobility that involves pedestrian and bicycle as well. You know, they're all different modes of transportation that we want to try to make sure that we take care of throughout the process. So that's the vision there, that will have a connection further on. There's a lot of times that we build pedestrian bridges on projects. And the locals then come in and do the connection. You know, we invest $2 or $3 million to get a grade separated crossing so it's safe for everybody to use, whether it's children or adults. And at the same time, then they can come in and partner and build out those connections. I think the second question has to do with wildlife and flooding. So as part of that process, I think, is that right? Okay. There's always a reevaluation point. As we go through this, we reevaluate at each phase. So when we get done with the design phase, I think it was mentioned in there that we would be doing a new environmental reevaluation that kind of looks at what we've done so far. Are there any additional impacts? Are there changes? Is our footprint by chance gotten larger, or has it gotten smaller? Have we been able to minimize those impacts? We will do that at each section of each phase. We also do a very robust hydraulic analysis of our projects to look at that. And like I spoke about earlier, you know, I've been a part of a lot of projects throughout East Tennessee in which we built a lot of crossings for wildlife, bears, different things like that. And like I said, right now I've got a proposal on I-40 to build a wildlife crossing that's pretty robust along the I-40 corridor. And as we build this one, near the Appalachian Trail, right. It's right there at the Appalachian Trail, if you're familiar with that on I-40. It's where we have one that we're looking at trying to get off the ground and built, recognizing that need. Along this corridor, we're around a lot of wildlife, right? And so certainly as we go through the design process, you know, we will look at those type of opportunities for crossings. We will look at, you know, a lot of different things. You know, I build cattle crossings for farmers and cattle as we build projects. You know, that's part of the design process to gather in comments. We've got a lot of great comments tonight around the design process as well as other comments, and we'll take those and try to craft a better project. We will answer all of the comments we've got. We're working through them now. We wanted to answer them all at once since we found out that we were going to have a second meeting. So you would get, because we're going to get some of the same comments back in, and we want to make sure we get them categorized and get everybody's answer categorized and represented by number and how many we have in each area. So we will get all of those out, I mean, as we go forward. You know, we've tried to be as transparent as possible in the difficult times. You know, COVID's challenge. We've all been touched by each of us personally in many cases, like myself with COVID. And so we tried to work as best we could to be considerate of the health and safety of the people that we serve. I'm a government servant, right? I serve people at the end of the day. And as we walked through and we had a lot of folks want us to come back out in person, you know, we're here. We're trying to walk through this, and we will be transparent, and we will work through that. And if you don't get an answer to a question, you're welcome to always call me. I will answer every question. I will answer every email. I get about 250 a day, so it takes me some time, but that's okay. That's my job, right? You're the people I serve. I serve from deep Roane County and Monroe County all the way up to Mountain City. And all of these jobs that we do, whether it's an intersection, an interchange, or a large project like this, they're all important. And the comments that we get and the feedback is important as well. So, thanks.
All right. Okay, that concludes tonight's public meeting. Thank you everyone for coming out. Reminder, if you have a comment that you would like to make, you can make it on our project website starting tomorrow afternoon. You have the comment cards that you were given as you walked in. You can hand them back to us tonight, or you can mail them back to us. Just make sure you get them back within 21 days. Also, our court reporter will be set up here in the front of the room here in a couple of minutes and will be available as long as necessary to take any comments that you would like to have. He'll be videotaping that, and we'll be able to take all of those comments. That concludes tonight's public meeting. We'll still stick around and answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, and please head home safely.